Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Coffee Conversations with Greg J is on. Making it through this week, aren't we? It's a good thing. Good thing. Hopefully, your head is to the light and hopefully, you're doing okay in spite of it all. A lot going on around us, right? But we're doing okay. We just came out of election day. It was Tuesday. We were talking about that. A lot of, important issues in front of us, including that of the creative economy. And here on Coffee Conversations with Greg J, we've been spotlighting that here and there as we linked up with Community Build and Albert Lord and all kinds of great and interesting people all across the diaspora to talk about this thing of arts and culture. And as our communities recover, right, after a rough 2.5 years of COVID and closings and all of that, I think an essential consideration for our communities is the preservation, the promotion, the sustainability of arts and culture. That's why we're here today. Talk all about it. Let's bring up our good friend, Mr. Robert Sausedo. He's the CEO of Community Build over there in Leimert Park, Los Angeles. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Greg, and a special thank you to you and Hannibal Media for the work you've done presenting the Black classical music and creative economy and collaborating with us on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for linking up. It's a subject matter that is near and dear to my heart. And, I've learned some things here with the Black classical music. It's so many times you take, that sector of the music industry, for granted. Sometimes you don't really think about it, but we've learned so much about it. And, I'm curious to know. I'm familiar with your organization for many, many years, and I was actually curious, why is this segment so important to the work of Community Build?
Yeah, great question, and I'm going to come back to some notes I have in a moment, but let me answer that directly. As you know, when we started the series with you to do the Blacks and Classical Music and the Creative Economy, we are positioning Community Build to be a key voice for people in the community for careers associated with the creative economy.
Mm.
So I'm excited to play a key role in that. But one way we can do that is really to begin to go back and highlight the brilliance of our community, right? And the roles that we've played throughout history in the creative economy. It's a
Mhm.
multi-billion-dollar industry that we have yet to have an opportunity to benefit from in ways other communities have. So Community Build is solidly involved in this from an economic development perspective, which is one of the key pillars of our organization.
Wow, that's exciting and very, very important. And, in my relatively new transformation as a digital media company and an advocate for arts and culture, I'm seeing from my executive board position of an arts organization, I'm seeing how the dollars are available through granting processes. And I see how, state government uh, is really trying to make sure that there are ample resources out there, for the creative economy. Is our community getting its fair share, or, how do we gain more resources to support our art and culture?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. So the initial answer is absolutely not.
Mm,
And look at it from this perspective. Imagine if you bake some cornbread, and you all know about the uh, baked cornbread in the black skillet, right? Um, and all you get is the crumbs.
mm,
That's what we've been getting.
mm,
And I think that when you look at the fact there are really two spectrums, it's the haves and the have-nots within the creative economy. On
mm,
one end of the spectrum, you've got your art, obviously your artists who make it very big, the industry that makes billions of dollars off of those artists, whether it's movies, whether it's music, whether it's art itself, all aspects of the creative economy, right? But on the other end of the spectrum, you've got the have-nots, and so it's hard to compete or bring the level of brilliance that we need into the creative economy because of the sheer lack of resources.
Mhm.
Then you look at the schools that, you know, when you and I were growing up, for example, in elementary school, I went to Arlington Heights,
Mhm.
right? And everybody knew if you went to Arlington Heights, Miss Zach, who was one of the best band leaders, orchestra leaders in the city, you grew up under Miss Zach, you were going to do something big. That's just the way it worked, right? Well, when you pull those programs out of schools, when you pull arts out of schools, I just, it blows my mind because here you have a multi-billion-dollar industry, but you're not developing the people to feed into that industry until much later in life. And therein lies the problem. And so we do have to begin to hold the industry across all spectrums of arts more accountable. We have to begin to look at philanthropy and say, hey, listen, we've been the talent for many decades, if not centuries, and yet we still don't get the just investment as a community. And I think, and when I talk a little bit about the concert series we're going to do in a moment, this really does talk more about our participation is more about the emancipation of the creative economy and our role in the arts.
You know, it's very interesting in doing this series with you. I've begun to take inventory and come to a great realization of how many great arts organizations we have right in our own community. I mean, we
Yes,
talked to the woman who's a project manager of the Vision Theater. We talked
yes.
to the brother that was developing the Stalker Studio. What's it called the stock? What's that place?
Stock of creative.
Yes, the Stalker Creative. We
Yes,
talked to the sister that's the head of the new Beckman Youth Orchestra,
yes,
Long Beach.
yes,
Los Angeles. I mean, it's just you have the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, and you know when you think about it, you have the Lula Washington Dance Theater right there on Crenshaw, a legacy
yes,
organization. And you know, I am just so honored that today, you know, you brought along with you Lula Washington herself, the one
yes.
and only. Good morning. Are you there? Okay, let's see. Hold on. There you are. All right.
Oh, you're muted. She's muted.
Uh, okay, now. Hey, come on now. Don't fight with me. Let me do it. Oh, you have to do it on your end.
Okay.
There
Good,
you are.
good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
I'm very excited uh,
Yes.
to be
You
on this
know,
show.
Lula, you know, you hear us chopping it up here about, you know, available resources, and you have been essential brick in the foundation of arts and culture, you know, in Los Angeles, in the state, in the country. I mean, you know, are you getting enough resources or what's the key to sustainability?
That's funny you call us a brick because we don't see ourselves as a brick because I see ourselves as let's see, uh, the water that mixes up with the ingredients that go into putting the brick together.
Mm,
That along the pathway that we take our journey, it starts to solidify. At what
Mm,
point in time that it solidifies, we have no control over. Uh,
mm,
so everything for us has always been a journey. And so when we talk about community and cultural arts, we have never ever recovered because we've never ever, as was said, we've never ever been on the top agenda of anyone's thought mindset about the value of cultural arts. And yes, the artists that participate in the entertainment world is much more widely viewed as being successful, more so than the cultural arts. And I'm very appreciative that you guys, you have included us as one of those. But we have struggled for every single thing that we have had, and that has been the journey of not only my cultural arts organization, but many other cultural arts organizations across the United States and here in Los Angeles. I was so grateful to hear that you mentioned the Vision Theater because we originally, with Marla Gibbs, were going to be co-partners in the
mm,
Vision Theater back in the day.
Mhm.
So when we started to talk about the cultural arts, and she was then struggling trying to get funding for that.
Mhm.
And then we have
Uh-oh.
the Nate Holden Center
Mhm.
Performing Arts. We have relationships with them that go far beyond it becoming the Nate Holden Center. So for the cultural arts, our survival has been developing collaborations and friendships and getting our stories out to tell the value of culture. And when we start to deny our culture and let our culture die, then we are lost. In my opinion, we are lost, just
Mhm.
totally lost, because culture is very important. Culture is tied to survival, to
Mhm.
health and wellness, to mental health and stability, to the economy. And
Mhm.
a lot of times people don't figure in what the cultural arts, let me just go back a minute. When I say the cultural arts, I'm talking about the nonprofit arena, the
Mhm. Mhm.
nonprofit arena, the cultural arts, because that is the area that our company is in, a nonprofit arts. And people
Mhm.
forget, we hire people to work too. They
Mhm.
get paid too. We have
Mhm.
taken our dance company all over the world, basically. And
Mhm.
yet, and still, we still have to fight for what we get. Now, the good thing and the bad thing. Let me just say this. I am so grateful to Community Bill for all that they are doing and continuing to do, and in their inclusion of the cultural arts in their thought processes. Because it's the cultural arts, again, as I say, it's the music, it's the dance, it's the
Mhm.
theater,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
the acting, it's
Mhm.
it's those things, it's the sculpturing,
Mhm.
it's the mass painting, it's all of those things that to me are going to help save our children,
Mhm.
save our communities, because it to me we are proof of existence. What we leave behind is proof that we existed, and telling that story in our community is very important. So
Mhm.
bringing together for the Juneteenth celebration is it's amazing. It's just
Mhm.
amazing opportunity for our community to rally around the cultural arts
Mhm.
with
I
company Lula Washington Dance Theater.
Yeah, yeah, well said, well said. Let's put a pin in it right here and just, Mr. Sausedo, just go ahead and tell us a little bit about the Juneteenth concert series, and then I'm gonna just dive right back into something that Sister Lula Washington said here.
Yeah. Yes. Well, before I do, I have to greet the lady in the room. And
Hmm.
so let me just say, Lula, it is absolutely an honor to do this with you. I personally have, and this is what the importance of arts investment. We as a city, as a community, have literally watched you grow over the last 3 decades into something that is formidable in the art space, representing the Crenshaw community, representing Leimert Park.
Hmm.
And what you do, and we look at the arts that comes out of Leimert Park, this is our modern day Central Avenue.
Yes.
Okay. This is our connection to our past, present, and future as it relates to arts entertainment. So, Community Build and the African American Heritage Month Legacy Project are producing a free, write that down, free community event on Juneteenth. It's a
Hmm.
classical music and dance festival commemorating the first anniversary of Juneteenth as a federal holiday. The festival is on Sunday, June 19th, 2022, this year, next week, I believe,
Hmm.
if I'm trying to get my dates together,
And
from noon until 5 p.m., and is being staged at none other than the Lula Washington Dance Theater at 3773 Crenshaw Boulevard, and it's at Coliseum, Los Angeles, California. 3773 Crenshaw Boulevard. The festival features musical performance by Dwight Trimble, who's located right here in Leimert Park, and the Fernando Pulliam Youth Jazz Orchestra, another wonderful arts organization in our community, right across the street from Community Build. The Lula Washington Dance Theater will be presenting choreography to the music performed by the Fernando Pulliam Youth Jazz Orchestra to include a 15-piece string section. Music to be performed by the Fernando Pulliam Youth Jazz Orchestra and strings include the Negro spiritual Amen and When the Saints Go Marching In. But here's the great thing. Lula Washington will present a world premiere dance choreographed to the William Grant Still composition Pages from Negro History. Written in 1947 for a reduced orchestra, less than 30 musicians, the composition features three sections: Africa, slavery, and emancipation. Now, William Grant Still lived in the area not far from Community Build, and among his huge catalog of writing composed the theme of the television show Perry Mason. William Grant Still was the first African American to conduct a major metropolitan orchestra, the Los Angeles Philharmonica. So the Juneteenth event is free to the community. And get this, folks who are listening, the first 300 persons to register online will receive a free barbecue style meal catered by Chef Marilyn herself. Also, the program is a dramatic reading, will feature a dramatic reading from the Gwendolyn Brooks poem, A Premiere for Blacks by Dale Madison, former Home Shopping Network star with choreography from Tamika Washington. This is dedicated for those whose hands we cannot hold, who are now gone but not forgotten. Community Build and the African American Heritage Month Legacy Project engage Black and women-owned enterprises for this particular production. The audio and video services are Black-owned. The event is staged in the community at the Lula Washington Theater. Catering is also, as I said earlier, done by Chef Marilyn. And the project is providing employment. Get this, Greg. Talk about creative economy. This project is providing employment for about 100 artists, technicians, and support staff from the Lamert Park Crenshaw community. But there's something equally as exciting. An open pre-show rehearsal was planned for this Sunday, from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall. So if you want to catch a little glimpse of what's going to happen on Juneteenth, come to the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall, located on Crenshaw Boulevard in Stocker, on this Sunday from 2 until 5, and you'll get a glimpse of the show. Local artists and creative-based nonprofit enterprises are hard-pressed to find the financial resources to mount shows and sustain their companies following the last 2 years of COVID pandemic. What a wonderful introduction to bring back the arts and have one-on-one communication with the community. Los Angeles is the entertainment capital of the world, and its creative economy boasts over $6 billion annually in revenue. Imagine that. So it begs the question, what is the percentage of lucrative industry available to minority and ethnic women companies? Community Build asks that question and strives to encourage and engage our local artists' talent to pursue skills and make opportunities like the Juneteenth Classical Music and Dance Festival a real opportunity for us.
You know, this is really, really, really phenomenal. I love it. I love it. I love it. You know, since excuse me, I really am have so many questions for you there, Robert Sausedo. Let me just start here with, because you're absolutely right. You know, we don't get the and it's not just, you know, Crenshaw, Lamert, it's all over the region. I mean, I moved out and started my own company. I moved out to Long Beach, and then I began to you know, I'm blessed to be on the Long Beach Arts Council for Long Beach, you know, and I'm seeing all this stuff. And you're right, you know, my community is doesn't always get the resources. And I wonder this question, right? Twofold. Number one, is it because how do we learn how to identify where resources are? And then the second thing is, you know, I noticed that city government, at least in Long Beach, I know city government is very much invested in the promotion of arts and culture, but I think that they sometimes fall short where it comes down to arts and culture organizations in the Black community, the Black and brown communities. This is what I see. And so I don't know, is it because they're our folks in the Black and brown communities aren't getting the information, or are they getting the information? Or, you know, why are we falling short? That's what I'm saying. Now, before you go there, Robert, what Miss Washington was saying is that you know what we're not really worried about that because we've always been trying. You know, the struggle has been real all this time, and we've been able to sustain. So, what is it? Is it important for the city to back us up, or are the people getting the information? What is it?
I think it's a multitude of things, but let me
Mhm,
start with this. Collaboration brings about manifestation.
mhm,
Collaboration
mhm,
brings about manifestation. One of the challenges that we have is that you have a number of arts programs who are competing for the same $1, right?
ah,
And so one of the skills that we or part of the culture community build is to figure out how can we collaborate with a Lula Washington or Fernando Pulliam,
mm,
right? Or Harold Trimble, and then begin to move in a direction where maybe the money I raise isn't so much for community build, but it's for supporting their
their
programming,
programs.
right?
Mhm, mhm,
And vice versa. Maybe someone who would normally not do something might find someone who would and say, "Hey, let's work together to make sure you have the resource you need." Right.
mhm,
So on
mhm,
a different topic, let me give an example. The Wooten Center, located I think at 91st and Western, they
mhm,
do phenomenal work with young people, tutoring, etc. They were getting they're right of two gangs who often shoot at each other and bullets fly into their building.
mhm,
And what we were able to do, we had a grant targeted for some repairs we needed on our building, but
mhm,
I asked our grantor to give the money to them because
mhm.
if I didn't help them, that blood would be on my hands. And that's the
Mhm.
approach we have to take is that sometimes we have to give something up to make sure we have something greater. So that's the
Yeah.
first thing. The other thing is our voice. When the industry comes or the city government comes to our community, it's almost like it's treated like we're a special treat when in fact
Mm,
our voice is part should be running concomitant to the overall arts conversation, which means we need to have more than a place at the table,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
And
mhm.
so not bring our voice in when it's meets a certain appeal or you're looking for something neat to do or to stand out, but the fact that we really are part of this conversation, and not just in music, not just in film, but across the entire art spectrum. That's what I think needs to happen.
That's powerful right there. There you have it. That's why we need support for cultural organizations, classical music. You know, I mean, that's a non quote unquote non traditional area. You know, for us, you would think. You know, I will ask you. I will say, when we talk about classical music, you know, Robert Sausedo, I was investigating a local symphony here and I asked them, I said, well, do you have any African American players? And they didn't. You know, and I thought about the work that we were doing together here. I'm like, wow, you know, this is why this work is so important to, you know, inform and inspire the people and promote diversity and inclusion at the same time in this space we call classical music, you know.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. You know, Lula Washington, let me ask you. I have a friend in Atlanta who we have been talking about. We talk about cultural arts all the time. She's the chair of the Atlanta Black Theater Festival. And we have been, you know, working together in building bridges in West Africa with, you know, the Ghana National Theater and all of this. And we see this
Mhm.
global um, this need for a global unity as we talk about cultural, you know, arts from a Black perspective, you know. And it's very very interesting. She says the same thing that you say is like, you know, man, we've been struggling all along in creating our own sustainability because oftentimes the resources aren't there for us, you know. What do we need to do to have a louder voice in order to make sure these resources do reach our communities? Because you know what, quite honestly, these organizations they're saying they want diversity, but what is happening? What do we
Well,
need to do?
well, okay. First of all, I just want to say thank you, Robert, for your
Mhm,
concepts about how to support. It's
mhm,
amazing, and we need actually more directors and
mhm,
African American organizations in our communities that have larger budgets that are in a position to make a difference, to
mhm,
think in that concept.
mhm,
Because we as African American cultural artists, we go about doing our art, and that's the most important thing. And
Mhm.
for me, it's what Malcolm X says about by any means necessary, do the work,
Mhm.
because the work is going to speak. And hopefully, in creating the work and continue to putting the work out, there will be individuals such as community build organizations and others that will hopefully see, as well as other organizations that really can make a difference. The huge funders that can really make a difference, that traditionally give the monies to, the music center or someplace else that's larger. Um, that money should be coming into our communities more, because we are dealing with issues that have been with us since we landed on this continent.
Mhm.
And these issues have changed and shifted in how they manifest themselves.
Mhm.
Now, I'm a member of the organization called the International Associations of Blacks in Dance, and our international dance organization goes all over, and we promote African American choreographers and dancers. And our organization has built a network across the United States and in Canada, uh, basically, so that we can take artists to these various different locations and they can have their work seen. And
Mhm.
young people then travel with us from all parts of the United States, and they get to see the cultural arts and what's going on in dance, what's going on in those particular parts of the United States and the world. So they get to experience artists all over that they would not normally have the opportunity to experience. My faith is in the cultural arts as our savior, but my faith is also in our hope that what we produce is saving lives. I honestly believe that. And
Mhm.
what we're going to be doing on Juneteenth in my studio, in a building that we bought, in a building that we own, and all we just got to do is keep up payments and be able to continue to pay our staff in a harder time than when we started. It was always difficult, but COVID made it worse.
Mhm.
So we talk about how we were able to find funding. I would sit on Zoom meetings and listen to the business community in here in LA, uh, and hear how they were doing, hear about different loans and things that we could get. Now, as a cultural arts organization, I don't like loans. I don't.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
We're never in a position to pay them back. We look for grants that will allow us to continue to work or do important work or things and support our programs, because we don't have to pay those back.
Mhm.
But for our sustainability, we need more and more and more. And the concept that Robert has suggested is a wonderful concept. But when you come to see us on June 19th, you're going to see a wonderful celebration of artistry, because you will have uh, Dwight Tribble, who's an amazing, amazing artist. And I've always wanted to do a show with Dwight. And because of Community Build, now we're able to do it. He's bringing us all
Mhm.
together. And with Fernando Poland, who works with young people, we have a dance studio. We work with young people as well. So we
Mhm.
have that commonality. He's teaching music, I'm teaching dance. In dance, you learn how to be good citizens, basically. You learn how to be respectful. You learn how to have patience. You learn how to build up your techniques in the area that you are working in, and the same
Mhm.
in music. So these are, and then you have us. So you have major artists from our community all on the stage. We have a backdoor stage, outdoor stage. People don't know we have outdoor stage. They
Mhm.
need to come and check it out. So not only will they see the beauty of that, they can envision creatively thinking about a new venue that's an outdoor venue in our community with a
Mhm.
really fantastic stage that has
Mhm.
so much possibilities. And because of Community Build coming there, they're allowing your people to come and see the possibilities of what's in our community.
Mhm.
Because of COVID-19, people have been not able to get out. And now they
Mhm.
can get out, they can come back into the community. They can see what they have not been able to participate in. So I
Mhm.
am really excited about this opportunity, and I encourage everyone to come out and participate in it, because Albert Lord, who came to us on behalf of Community Bill, we've been connected to him for many, many years, and he's always been an advocate for the arts as well as Community Bill. So this is a fantastic moment, and I'm not ever saying that that things were easy. I just said we had to make it happen. In COVID, I'm in my studio working in the dark by myself because nobody can come. And the students from the community kept calling. We need to be in class. We need for you to do the classes. Please, please. So we opened back up during COVID for a limited amount of students. And so we're trying to rebuild back up. But it's the need of the desire and the students that want to be in the art of dance. They want to be, like they want to be in music. But COVID prevented all of that. So you can imagine young people and the value of the arts in their lives. So my thought is we need to continue to do this and do more of it and continue to support each other, as Robert was saying. His support of me allows me to also support Community Bill by being part of this project that we're doing together. And I see that as we're all helping each other to succeed in an environment where we're actually not meant to succeed. So many other cultural arts groups that I know and dance companies did not make it. They did not survive it. I have been blessed because we everything that happened to us, now don't laugh when I tell you this, everything that happened to us happened almost because of a major disaster, truly. And what was the disaster? It was the earthquake that happened when we had our building on Adams. And tore the building down after we had spent over $250,000 to earthquake that building. It tore down the next day, the day we were supposed to open back up because of the earthquake.
Man.
We were able, because of that, to rally with support of Maxine Waters and different council people and different senators to get federal funding to find a new location. Struggle through that. Then we struggled with the city because they wanted to take our property by eminent domain so they could build some kind of, I don't know what they was going to build up there, but they didn't want the arts there. And we were like, why not? Why can't we, be in the place? And they said, because you can't afford to pay. And we're like, well, we've been paying all this time. So how can you say we can't afford to pay? So we actually, long story short, we had to sue the city of LA to actually get enough money from them so we could find another place. Now, don't laugh when I tell you this. I always wanted to be on Crenshaw Boulevard. Always.
Hilarious.
Always wanted to be there. And I said, I want to be on Crenshaw Boulevard among the major African-American businesses.
Yeah, right.
Guess what? I'm across the street from the Sentinel.
Yeah.
Down the street from, oh God, I can't remember my church name now. Oh Lord, they're going to beat me up.
West Angeles Cathedral.
Cathedral, yes. So I've been at that church for the longest. So I'm like in the middle of those. And then we've always been next door to fast food. On Adams, it was Church's Fried Chicken. Now it's Winston. But still, we are in the community.
That's right.
Yes, I said no. We're in the community. And then driving down the street, I found the building on Crenshaw and Coliseum. Because the federal government had given us money, but because we are an arts organization, we had been on tour dancing and doing what we do. We did not realize that we had danced for so long and not paid attention that they wanted to take their money back. And we're like, no, you can't do that. I'm going to find us a place. So driving down the street on Crenshaw and Coliseum, I saw all of these people coming out of the building. But guess what? The building, when you looked in it, it was totally dark. No lights were on. So I parked my car and I ran in and I said to the man, what is going on in this building? He said, oh, it's we're getting ready to sell this property and we're giving away stuff in the building. And I said, you're selling this building? I quickly ran around and I said, oh, I could use this building. We could use this. I quickly called our person. I said, I found a building. I want this building. What do we need to do? So we started that process. And to this day, don't laugh, people still asking me, what do y'all do in that space? Don't you want to sell it? I'm like, no, we own this building now. This is a place for art. This is a place for dance. On the corner I have a sign painted, dance lives here. On the inside, we have a lot of traditional African symbols that have very specific meanings, and some on the outside, because I want it to be a source of pride for our community. And in Hollywood, they bring their band by, and they stop and they point at my studio and the walls. I don't know what they're saying, but anyway, that's where we are now. We are still going to be doing what we do because the art and the work that we do is the most important thing. It's not about Lula or Erwin or Tamika. In a sense, it is because it's our thinking that continues to help us jump through the hurdles. It's Erwin's thinking that still helps us to write these grants and apply for these different things, and to read through the fine language that these proposals have you do. And a lot of people, that's very difficult for them to do. So grant writing is a major part of it, but having individuals that understand the language of how they need to speak to these people in order to get funding is crucial as well.
Let me ask you a question. I mean, as I, have my finger on the pulse of what happens in the Crenshaw corridor through being a part of the West Angeles Community Development Corporation, you hear a lot about gentrification. We see the change in the community. How is that affecting what you do there, Lula Washington?
Well, actually, it really does not. I don't actually allow it to, because basically I welcome people into my studio who want to participate in what I have to offer. And I have had some that came in and I could read them right away, and they wanted to try to tell me this, that, and the other. And I would say, no, that's not what we do here. But this is what we offer the community. Our community, I kind of built my concept on Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater when I first saw his dance company. It was a dance company that was composed of individual people from all different cultural backgrounds. And Alvin Ailey became a mentor to me. His mother's name was Lula, and we became good friends. And so I've always had that type of concept. So we've had all different types of individuals from all different types of cultural backgrounds come and study and teach and take classes at our studio. We've had Brazilian artists, we've had African artists, we've had artists from Cuba, but they all come to us from our partners that we have worked with over the years in the community, and they're looking for a place to host a class or host an event, and they would come to us, and we would always say, yes, we want our place to be a place in our community. And that's why I'm so glad to be on that Crenshaw corridor, because from my side of town, the 10, when you get off on Crenshaw, you pass right down in front of my place and go right down to Leimert Park. And so that's why we're all tied together. We're on the same path, and we're all looking for our continual survival. And unfortunately, it has to take huge movements to move people. Now, you asked a question of, are we going to be able to continue this? That depends. We can't even get people to continue on saving the lives of children in schools. So how are we going to continue? We've been trying to get more funding for years, but it's changing the mindsets. We have to change the idea and the concept and the value. And that's why I really appreciate what Robert was saying, what he was saying, because that is helping to change the mindset of individuals.
Yeah, Robert Sausedo, I'm listening, and I'm seeing even the more how important the work that you're doing is. I'm listening to Miss Washington. She's had great success with the city government, and then she's also boxed a few rounds with them too. That's a full round a picture of what's happening there, and I can see where your organization can stand in the gap and help advocate for the arts and culture in the area. I'm gonna ask you the same question. I mean, Leimert Park is the epicenter of Black arts and culture in LA, certainly, like without question. Is the new transformation of the Crenshaw area, how do you see it responding to the G word, gentrification?
So a couple of things. Let me correct one thing I said earlier, and then I want to touch on something Lula said, and then
Yes, sir.
it'll feed right into that. I referred to Dwight Trimble as Harold Trimble. That
You
used to actually
did.
be I caught that after I said it. That was my old accountant from many years ago. I don't know why I even said that. So Dwight, forgive me. It's Dwight Trimble from the World Stage, and if you haven't had a chance to go to any of his shows, please do. So it's
Please
phenomenal,
do.
phenomenal place.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
Lula talked about the arts being many things. We
Mhm,
can look at arts as healing. The fact that you could sit
mhm,
down and get into a meditative state, whether it's looking at dance, listening to music, or just breathing it in. Arts is about developing self-esteem. It was used to develop people's creative talents so that they can move into things like, what I'm doing and you're doing, public speaking. Arts is also, Angela Davis just had a lecture this past Sunday at the Disney Theater on arts as a social in its role with social justice movements. So
mhm,
arts does represent many, many things for our community. When we consider um, gentrification into the conversation,
mhm.
everyone always asks me, "What is your thoughts on gentrification?" I have a simple answer: just don't sell your mama's house, right? That's
Right?
right. And so
That's
that's a whole nother conversation we could have because there's some other elements to that piece that we have to talk about later. I won't
Yes,
use the show
yes.
for this, but what I will say is um, we were very careful, which is why this five-part series was so important to
Mhm,
to make sure that we had a strong voice like yours, Greg, to really bring about the conversation and the historical perspective of blacks in classical music, so that
mhm,
it isn't looked at as a bourgeoisie movement or
mhm,
continuing to feed into gentrification, but really to highlight the fact that we have planted the seeds of music early on, and that
mhm,
everyone knows if you start with the basics, you start with the classics, and then you build from there. And so I think that what I'm seeing with regards to gentrification, because a lot of times people think gentrification is white folks moving to the neighborhood, and it's really
mhm,
about economic class. And I was sharing that with a
mm.
friend of mine who moved to Leimert Park about 10 years ago, and they were going through their whole diatribe, and I said, well, you're a gentrifier, right? and
Mhm.
and they were African American, and they said,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
don't say that to me. I said, no, it's true. And
Right.
so I said, but here's what we have to look at. Those who are moving into the community, what I have
Mhm,
seen is a great appreciation for what we have in our hands, right? The
mm,
blessing that God placed in our hands. It isn't just for our culture. It's really if we look at arts the right way, and for example, in Leimert Park, when God bless her soul, when Barbara Morrison was here with us,
mhm,
and so many of the other artists, what it does is it brings people together in a way that we're all on one collective, united platform, where we can begin to look at all of the components and what music does for us individually. So
mhm,
I think that we have to begin to look at, there's always change. Hey, our community started out, Baldwin Hills, View Park was a Jewish community many, many
mhm,
years ago.
mhm,
And so we've watched things evolve. The Baldwin Village was a Jewish community, the area known as the jungle today. And that was because of the trees in the area.
mhm, mhm,
And so we've watched our community go full circle, and we'll see that happen over decades of time. But what has not changed, no, get this. What has not changed is our ability as a culture to bring and unite people through the arts and through the creative economy. What has not changed in that concept, however, is our ability to maximize our participation from a monetary standpoint. And that's what I'm standing up for. I'm not an artist in the sense of a true art, but I am an artist as a businessman. I am an artist that says,
yes.
hey, we've got to look at ways to make sure that our people are getting more than crumbs. We've
Mhm,
got to make sure that our people are getting more than budget dust. So I
mhm,
want to thank the Department of Cultural Affairs for being a part of this with us. And I remember, I'll say this last thing to you is I remember I was in a meeting with DCA with the artists as they planned for the Olympics and the arts. And everyone was sharing their idea, and it was artists from across the city. It was a beautiful meeting. And I said to them, this is not the meeting for me. I'm not an artsy guy. Matter of
mhm.
fact, it stresses me out to have this artsy conversation. I'm the business side of this.
Yeah,
I said,
right.
but here's what I want you guys to understand. You're in a room talking about what art you're going to put forth with the Olympics. Don't do what happened in 1984, where you developed this beautiful art and all of these wonderful posters. And then a guy like me came in, called an advertising company, took your art, gave you crumbs for it, and made millions of dollars promoting your art. We cannot allow that to happen in the Olympics. We can't allow it to happen in any other sports venues. We have to show our artists across the spectrum of arts that you really are valuable. Come on, $6 billion a year industry in LA County alone. Come on, I think it's 100 billion statewide. So when you look at those types of dollars and the fact that you're getting budget dust from your efforts and everyone else is benefiting off of it, it's time to say, hey, pump the brakes. Let's have a real creative economy conversation, and let's get people in the mindset that the art that they bring, as beautiful as it is, does absolutely represent something from a monetary perspective, and you, the artist, need to benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you too. I'm also on the business side of things, and I think that's what's gotten me since I moved out to Long Beach into the executive levels of the Arts Council for Long
Right.
Beach, because I'm about that business, and
Right.
it's really exciting, and from where I sit, Robert, I see money for all of this stuff. I see it. I'm watching it, but I'm trying to figure out, where do we lose it where it's not getting down in ample, amounts to our people. This is the part that's really perplexing me, and I need to find I need that answer,
So
really
here's a
serious.
here's an idea for you, Greg. It's going to take people like yourself, people like Lula, people like me to sit down with academia and business, say, hey, let's do this. Let's pick apart this thing we call creative economy, and
Mhm.
let's understand its value stream and how people get plugged into it.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
let's look at what points of revenue in that conversation, when it trickles down to the artist, where is the breakdown there? See, we don't understand the value stream of it. When
Uh-huh.
we begin to understand the value stream and how to plug people in appropriately, right? So that they don't get taken advantage of, because you and I
Mhm.
both know in certain parts of the creative economy, people's talents are exploited, because they dream of being in a movie, they dream of being on a movie set, so they're going to work for free. And you
Mhm.
get those, there's a monetary value to that doesn't
Mhm.
get paid for, but somebody benefits from. So I
Mhm.
think we've got to, and this, we could do this across any industry, is really unpack that value stream. Look at how the talent flows and how the dollars flow and how they line up together. And
Mhm.
then we could begin to weave that together like a fine woven garment, and make sure people are inserted appropriately. And then also artists need to take a step back and not be so artsy, but really start to get a business mindset that there is value in this. And that while we do, as you know, I'm a Christian, so as a Christian, I believe in hope and faith, but hope is not a business strategy,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So I'm not going to show up. I remember as a kid, they'd have me filming these shows, and they say, hey, you could be an extra, but you got to do it for free, and you might get discovered. And I always
Mhm.
just say, discover me a paycheck, baby, because I'm not about to do something for free. My time is worth something, right? But
Yeah.
I learned that early on. When I sat my parents down at 13 years old, I said, Mom and Dad, I don't need nothing else from you. Just give me the time I need to go out here and make some money. And I did. I
Yes,
cut
sir.
lawns. I worked for a local fast food restaurant. I won't say because they're not paying for advertising dollars. Um, I sanded down cars on the weekends. I did what I had to do to make the money I needed to make, and that's the kind of hustle factor that I was able to develop. But what it did for me is it showed me that free is the exception, not the rule.
Yes,
And
sir.
and what we've got to show people who are in this industry is that free for you has been the rule and not the
Mhm.
exception,
Mhm.
the exception. And we've got to change that mindset, because look, everybody else is benefiting from it. You may
Mhm.
as well too.
It's an interesting
Okay.
conversation to have. You just spurred memories of the Super Bowl just now, where the dancers were protesting because they asked you had Dr. Dre and his big super hip hop, presentation, but they were asking dancers to come and dance for free, and that caused a big uproar and everything. And what you just said applies directly to that case study.
Yeah.
Lula, you were going to say something?
Yeah, a couple of things that Robert was speaking about.
Mm.
And the unpacking idea is exactly what needs to happen in terms of understanding in terms of individuals seeking funding, how they can get it and what keeps them out of the loop. A lot of times, these organizations that are giving money, they want to look at your budget size. They want to know how much money you're making. And you have to have your records kept right. You have to do all of these things. And I'm not knocking anyone or anything. It's just that to me, we have to look at the history and of nonprofit cultural art. Nonprofit does not mean you can't earn money. It doesn't mean that. You
Not
can
at all.
still earn money from as being a nonprofit. But what we've seen is they always want to see your budget size. They always want to see all of these different types, all of your tax information. They want to see how much money you earn for 3 or 4 years, how you gonna pay it back. Well, if you have been in COVID, how you gonna pay it back when they want to pay it back? Because you're still in COVID. You understand what I'm saying? But they give you this, if you are lucky enough to get some of this PPP money, or PL, whatever they call it money, you get some of that money. You still got, if it's a loan, if they're giving it to you as a loan, and you still have to pay that money back. And that's just as difficult for small businesses as it is for cultural arts groups to be able to pay back when you haven't really come fully back. And when you've never really been able to get your due when you ask for it. So you might ask for, let's say, $500,000 grant from somebody, but they ain't not going to give you a $500,000 grant because they want to see all of your paperwork in order. You're going to have everything precisely correct. And that is a challenge for many organizations to do that, to get those audits every year. $5 to $10 to $15 or $20,000. Who has that laying around? None of us, but we have to struggle to make it happen still because it allows us to be eligible to get funding. So in terms of having this thing being unpacked, it needs to be looked at. Why do cultural arts groups have to have the same demands as a big corporation or other group like the Music Center? That's all I can think of right now off the top of my head. They might be, but I'll just call it anyway.
Great example.
Have to do that when we don't. They may not even have. They don't have to do it. If they do it, they're in a position to do it. Whereas a smaller cultural arts group is not able to do that. But
now, Lula, that's an excellent point. And I've sat on a few, grant panels and everything, and you're absolutely right. They want to see, your books. They want to compare, at least the last 2 years of what your financial performance has been. And so when you go and submit the paperwork to gain the grant, you definitely have, your stuff in order. However, on the other hand, I do see, especially as the communities, reflex and try to be more inclusive after the murder of George Floyd. I do see, as an example, the last year during COVID, I was sitting in a grant panel for the California Arts Council, and I saw where they were being very intentional about trying to relax rules or adjust rules so that they could bring in more smaller cultural organizations. As a matter of fact, the conversation became where we kind of push back the larger organizations that were traditionally getting these dollars, and were very intentional with marginalized communities, bringing them into the fold so that they get this money. Now, were the grant awards like 500,000? No, but still, it was, they tried, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So Greg, that goes to how do you build a wall? One brick at a time, right?
One brick at a
And
time.
so to Lula's point, and I want to make sure we don't miss this. So when we see in the arts community, maybe it's time for a shifting of thinking with the smaller organizations too. Who can I collaborate with? Like this, what we're doing with Lula, right? Lula never expected us to knock on her door. Thank God for Albert Lord for that vision. Now, so what we're saying is that, when you take, let's just use the 3 people involved, Lula, right? And and the other folks engaged, forgive me, but the words aren't coming to me today, right? Dwight Tribble and Fernando Pulliam, right? And they begin to work together and say, how can we pull this off together? So then it goes into, how can we write a grant together,
Together.
right? How can we tell our story together and begin to break up this fractionalized, infighting for the same dollar? This is what I started with earlier. And I think it's so important that if I were an arts organization, I'd be walking away from this conversation asking that question. I'd be asking two questions. One, how do I work with other organizations to do more, get more? And two, uh, making sure that I show up on Juneteenth at Lula Washington to hear see this phenomenal show that she's going to put down on Juneteenth for the community. And by the way, totally free.
That's right. Yeah. Give that information again. So what time? What time?
So the show starts at noon on Juneteenth, Sunday, Juneteenth, which by the way is Father's Day. So if you're looking for something to do for Father's Day, just put your money back in your wallet. You can make a donation to Lula or Community Build or Fernando Pulliam or the World Stage, and come bring your family out to the Juneteenth event at 3773 Crenshaw Boulevard. And that's going to be a wonderful show. You do need to register, and forgive me, I don't know if Albert gave you the information. It's not in my notes here in terms of going online and registering.
Yeah, what I'm going to do there, I'm going to put all the links on our page so that everybody can see it. I don't have it here, but I do know that you need to Eventbrite register so that they can have an understanding of the amount of people that are coming and thus and so. But it's an excellent show to be a part of there.
There's barbecue.
Free barbecue. That's what's up.
Yeah, it's from Chef Maryland's. The first 300 people that register, Chef Maryland put together something tasty, and you register and come. You'll have the opportunity to sample all of that and enjoy yourself. As Robert said, kick back and enjoy the event. And,
I'm a link. I would look for that link so I can be on it.
Hey, and as Chris Rock said, Father's Day is the big piece of chicken day, right? And so only in this case, you don't have to take Dad out to lunch. Just bring him to the concert and have some free barbecue with us.
That's what's up. I love it. All right, that's the Lula Washington. Let me ask you something, Lula. Kamasi Washington is related to you?
My husband's nephew.
Wow.
He's always been an amazing artist, but we toured, what was it, Russia or China? We toured China, and we took him with us. And he played with us, and when he came back, he was continuing his work. He was always doing this work. He came back and just bursting out. So we have done shows. It's a family affair. Kamasi and I have done shows together. And
arts and culture roots run deep.
Yes. They do, and to get us both together, you got to have some deep pockets.
That's really awesome. I traveled to Cape Town, South Africa to see him.
You probably heard him, yeah.
Yes.
He's been everywhere. He's an amazing artist, and we're just so proud of him. And his father's also a musician, artist that travels and tours and plays saxophone, I think, with him as well. So, and my grandson, I'm gonna just tell you, just graduated, and he's going to go to the Berkeley School of the Art, and he's nice. I think he calls himself a jazz musician. He plays the piano. He plays everything, but he's gonna be mad if I say it wrong. But anyway, he's on a full scholarship there.
Nice.
He's received scholarship support to attend the Berkeley School of Music, and he's amazing. He's been writing and producing his own music as well. He has his own Instagram. Check him out, Veritas Miller, and hear his music. But we're all in support of young people. We're all in support of community. But in order for this dialogue to continue, you must have the dialogue to continue to unpack the mindset of how we can collaborate together and still remain friends, because sometimes that becomes a serious issue. Everybody coming to the table with the mindset that we're doing this together and that we are going to come out of it still holding hands. And so maybe Robert, you do this, and you be the facilitator, or you be our mentor in terms of building a worksheet of how to make these things happen successfully.
Happy to do that.
We've done a lot of collaborations. some
Yes.
more successful than others.
Yes.
And you learn by trial and error who basically all my life in dance, we've been doing collaborations, and some were successful and some were not. But
Yes.
you're going to know who your partners are and who you're going in with.
You know,
You
as we
said
close,
collaboration means leads to
manifestation.
manifestation. That was great.
Yes. Now, the other thing as you close out, Greg, I do want to make sure I want to give all your listeners a homework assignment.
Yeah.
And that homework assignment is this. I'd like you to Google the Otis College report on the creative economy. I think the 2022
Mhm.
report is out now. To me, the
Yeah.
best one I've read to date is the 2018 report. And the reason this is important because this will help you understand the broad spectrum and global picture of the creative economy as it
Mhm.
relates to Los Angeles County and the state. Otis College report on the creative economy. Do some homework there and begin to see where you might be able to fit in if you're looking at a career change. Because like if I were in the creative economy, I would definitely not be on the art side of it. I would be more on the business side of it. So where
Mhm.
is that opportunity? I
Mhm.
think this report helps guide people in that way to understand it. Because this, remember, we're talking about arts, which is what we're putting on Juneteenth. But then
Mhm.
there's the broader conversation of creative economy, which you've done a fascinating job of continuing to lead over the last several weeks. I don't want us to miss that point. And Lula, to your question, I'd be happy to continue to collaborate and work with you and others to make sure that we have a strong, united voice around the arts in our community. But the thing is, people have to get the thing you have to get me. And sometimes I tick people off. Is I'm about as Greg said earlier, I'm about that business. Let's
Mhm.
figure out how to look at this and make that money. And by the way, Albert Lord just posted something that said, if you want more information, go to info@communitybuildinc.org, info@communitybuild.org. And then you'll
Mhm.
be able, either one of those websites, you'll be able to have someone respond to you accordingly.
Very, very, very good stuff. I was going to ask you too, Robert. It sounds like we need to have some seminars or trainings, if you will, of how to
Let's,
present yourself
Yeah.
to these organizations. Yeah.
let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, y'all. There it is. Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Look at me. You wish you was me. I'm sitting here with Lula Washington, icon of arts and culture in the world. I want to say the Crenshaw community, but in the world is
That's
what
right.
time that is. Robert Sausedo, community build. I mean, icon of. You all wish you were me. Look at that. Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Look at it on, you can get us on the Facebook page, Coffee Conversations with Greg J. You can go to our website, Beach City Radio, beachcityradio.com. It's on there, Beach City Perspective. We're also repurposing the audio for podcast everywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spreaker, Google, iHeart, just wherever. Just say Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Any last words to the people of Lula, Washington?
Hey, come out on June 19th. Come out, bring your family, bring your friends, sign up so you can get some barbecue and see a fantastic show. We don't always have to go outside of our community to see great art.
That's right.
And have great experiences. It's about experiences together as a family and a community. So we don't have to go outside. It's good to travel out to see sometime, but hey, it's good to come home and see as well.
That's right. Robert Sausedo?
I'd say come on out and let the music and the dance arts fill your soul and join the band with the sound of the licking of the barbecue sauce off your fingers.
That's what's up. All right, y'all. Love one another. Love one another. Love one another. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.